Siobhan Lyon, and you're very welcome to our podcast, Mind Blowing, and this is number 6.
Yes, and I thought you were calling me number 6. My name is Paul Gill.
No. You're number 2, Paul.
Thank you. I suppose this ties in with what we're going to be talking about today. I suppose our identity, or what you call poker face.
Yeah, poker face therapy. Yeah, so today is going to be largely, I suppose, about our identity, who we are, how we are as therapists working together, and I suppose the different faces we have as human beings in our daily lives, like in work or at home, or when we go to the shops or whatever it is that we're doing. We're out for a night with the girls, Paul, you know.
Yeah, I never do that anymore. But yeah, we have these facades. There's a Beatles song, Eleanor Rigby, and it's talking about she has her face in a jar by the door, so that when she opens the door, whoever's going to be on the other side of the door, she puts on the face. So whether it's the priest or whether it's the neighbor or whatever, and we do have these faces that allow us to interact with the world, and there's nothing wrong with that. It can be very useful, because I like to think that there's a consistency about my personality and whatever, that I am as I am. So even though I'm talking to you and we're doing this video, I could be sitting down with somebody in a coffee shop and I'll still be talking like this.
Yeah. You still have your same kind of tone or your same personality, the way you are, like.
Yeah. But by the same token too, like, the way we dress, like you dress professionally, suit and tie for weddings, for funerals, and you dress casually then for other things. So our faces isn't just our physical face, it's what we project out there.
Yeah, it's exactly what we manifest ourselves to be, I suppose, in particular situations, isn't it?
Yeah.
So I suppose what I want to get into is, all of those things, because I remember, like, when I was very little, looking up at my mother, and she'd meet somebody on the street. Oh, hello, Mrs. Whatever, how are you getting on, and how are you doing, Uncle, how is Tommy now, and all the rest, and that kind of thing. And and then she'd walk away and she'd be giving out to me for not hurrying up.
Right. I thought you were going to say she'd be kind of turning like it'd be like Two-Face and kind of she was don't like that woman at all.
Yeah, no, never actually. My mother, like, not just my mother was never really Two-Faced, like,
no, and
lucky enough.
Yeah. But do you think that, again, there's a male female divide in this, that women will meet each other on the side? You're looking you're fantastic. I love your outfit. And they don't mean a word of it.
Sometimes you see it in hotels. We've seen it in a hotel one time we went on a holiday years ago, and there was a woman at the counter. She was complaining to the receptionist, right? There was something not right with her room or whatever. She was giving out stink to the receptionist, right? And the next thing then, or about this thing, and then she kind of resolved it. She's like, "Oh, that's lovely. Thank you very much, my auntie." Like this. Yeah. And you were like, "Oh my God, you're so fake."
Yeah, but I think with men, if a man meets another man that he doesn't like, he's just not going to bother. He's not going to talk to him.
Yeah. I think I'm more like a man in that way than I am a woman.
Have you always been like that, or have you grown to become like that?
I think I've grown to become like that.
Yeah.
Definitely. Like, I've changed. I think since I'm matured, I kind of did, the way you kind of decide who you want to be, like, and you just create that.
I haven't
person.
decided yet.
Have you not? You're still working on it.
But yeah, on a serious note, I mean, when I help like parents bring their kids, students, for help with studying or whatever, and sometimes there is this expectation, where are you going in your life? What do you want to be? And it can be very difficult. Like, I didn't decide that I wanted to be a therapist until I was nearly 40.
Yeah.
And now, I suppose, like, I grew up in an era where you get into a job and you stick in that job for life.
Yeah. A good pensionable job.
There's no such thing now.
Yeah. There isn't, actually, because they can be let go at any time.
Yeah, but people chop and change anyways.
Yeah.
There's no expectation that when I join this company, I'm going to be here for life.
Yeah.
Until I retire with a watch and a party.
Yeah.
There's none of that. But your sense of identity too, it can be that your job, especially it used to be like you were the postman, the milkman, you were the woman who ran the corner shop. You were your job.
Yeah.
It's not so much like that now. It's not so much like that now.
It's less personal now, though, isn't it? Because you don't know. I don't know who my postman is. And years ago, everybody knew who the postman was. That's a
Yeah.
really good example, actually.
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know, but now you just don't
Yeah,
know.
because I used to be a postman, so I do know what
Yeah. Oh, I forgot that,
Yeah, I was
actually.
a postman. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And you see, especially as I'm looking out the window, there's a postman coming across there.
No way.
But back then, I suppose because Ireland was less populated as well,
Mm.
you probably less changes in localities. Communities were kind of stable, were a certain size. The postman, especially in a rural area, you were the postman for that area,
Yeah.
probably for life.
Yeah.
And the only other time anybody else saw a different postman was when you went on holidays or sick.
Mm.
Or whatever. So yes, your identity was part of that. And I knew a postman who, when he retired, he was actually living on the route that I was delivering to. His home place, he was from. I remember delivering cattle tags. I think it was a box, and you used to have to get them to sign for them. And going out the back and looking, and there he was in his post office uniform, shoveling up shit out of a shed or whatever.
No
But
way.
he put on the uniform every day because that's what he was used to. So even after he retired, his sense of identity was being the postman.
Uniform,
Eddie
and
the
then you're in
postman.
work mode.
Yeah, but this is who he was.
God,
You know.
that's a sight, isn't
Yeah, he nearly would have wore it to mass on a Sunday.
it? Which wouldn't be done back then, by
Yeah.
the way, either. Yeah, you had to wear your Sunday best.
Yes.
And that's like, it's that where we get it, you know, we have to have this face on all the time that we're, you know, we're really good or we're ungrateful.
Oh, yeah.
Everything is so happy and blessed.
Yeah,
in
we were
one's
only
home.
washed before we were taken to mass. when we were
Yeah.
kids.
Perfect into the one bath on a Saturday
It's
evening.
Saturday evening, and then
I know, it's so gross.
and then
thinking
turned
about
out, yeah.
Yeah.
But you couldn't wait to get home from town then to change into your old clothes and off out with you.
Yeah, I would play then.
Yeah.
You know, that'd be
But
great.
again, and I suppose show my age here, like you had your clothes for Sunday, you had your clothes that you wore to school, and then you had your mucking around clothes. You
Yeah.
had like 3 sets of clothes,
Yeah.
and that was it.
Three.
And they weren't
Literally
even
only
yours.
three.
If you were in the midst of a large family, they were hand-me-downs.
Yeah, yeah.
You never got
Yeah.
anything new unless the hand-me-down was just worn out completely, and you were lucky. You kind of go, right, I'm going to get a new jumper. I'm going to be the
Yes.
first wearer of this jumper.
Yeah, God, yeah, that was such a big thing then if you did get something new, you know.
Yeah, yeah. So the poker face
Mhm.
thing, we do it to hide,
Mm.
because if you watch poker on telly, a lot of the players, you see people there and they have maybe a visor on, and kind of one of these hats with a visor on, or maybe the dark glasses at the table and turn their head down so nobody can see their eyes.
Yeah.
Because you can betray yourself with your eyes.
This is interesting actually, because did you study NLP
I did.
at some stage?
I did, and even
So this is neurolinguistics, isn't it?
yeah, and if you can see how somebody is processing information, their world, from watching their eyes.
Yeah.
Because we'll access certain parts of our brain, and you just with EMDR, the eyes will move over and back. Why? They don't need to move. Why did they do that? And they're swapping information data from the hemispheres of the brain, 2 hemispheres of the brain over back, and you get the same in REM sleep as well. That's what the mind is doing. But when we access information, whether it's visual, auditory, or whether we're in touch with our feelings, or whether we're talking to ourselves, we access different parts of our brain. So you find that people who are very visual, artists, for example, and whatever, and this is a thing too, like when I talk about visualization, I'm not just strictly speaking about being able to see things.
Yeah.
It's the experience.
So to feel it.
Yeah, because I had this discussion with a guy one time where he was talking about visualizing something, and he did this visualization where you get up out of bed at night and you go downstairs, that you open the fridge door and you take out a glass of milk and you drink it. And I said to him, I don't see that. He said, what do you mean you don't see it? He said, obviously you do see it. You wouldn't have been able to relate it back to me. I said, no. I said, I feel that. And he said, what do you mean? I said, I feel my feet going down the stairs, the coldness of the tiled floor. And you notice I've even closed my eyes as I've done this, because I've gone into feeling mode. I noticed as I open the fridge, the blast of cold air, the feeling of the weight of the glass and the coolness of it in my tongue. So I sense the world through feeling.
Right.
Now, I am visual as well, because I remember what my kids look like and where I live.
That's handy.
But my primary modality is feeling.
Yeah.
And when I am accessing feeling parts of my mind, my eyes will move in a certain direction. So let me get this right. If I am remembering something visually, my eyes will move up to my top left.
Mhm.
I'm accessing memories, visual memories, things.
Okay.
If I want to imagine something visual, to the top right.
Interesting.
So
So is this how you tell people are lying?
yes,
It's a big question, isn't it?
yes, it is something
I
that
move my eyes around all the time.
you could be delirious.
I might be a bit delirious. I don't think I put them in any one place.
There was a TV show, Lied to Me, that used to be on. I used to love watching that.
Yeah.
But it is used,
Yeah.
and you can see when there are people in the police force who will study somebody, put a camera on them when they're being interviewed, and watch it back and watch for minute little facial expressions that tell when they're lying.
Do you think are all the guards trained in that?
And I do this. I watch this when I watch.
If there's any guards, comment down below and let us know. Are you trained in this crap?
Everybody would have an intuition about it.
Yeah.
But even I was going to say when I'm watching football and there's a penalty to be taken,
Yeah.
I want the cameraman to have his camera on the eyes of the player who's setting up the ball, right? Because he will look in the direction he's going to put the ball into the goal. So if I was a goalie, I'd know which way the ball was going. And I do for the cracks sometimes when I'm sitting watching, he's going to put it in the top left. You go, how do you know? Because he looked up there, top left, and then he looked back at the ball, and then he's kind of with this, and he's trying to steer straight, but he's already made the decision. He's visualized it going into the top left.
Okay.
So carrying on from that, if we are thinking in terms of sound, we'll access the eyes will go across kind of at a mid-level for memories and mid-level for constructing sound as well.
Wow.
Yeah,
very interesting stuff.
It's not exactly a hard and fast exact science, but it's a good indicator that you can use. And everybody's saying this, like where you ask somebody something and their eyes just go just straight down the middle, like a rabbit in the headlights, and that's their brain is scrambled. They can't think.
Oh my god,
they're in neutral.
What's wrong with the poker face therapist then?
They're in neutral.
They're just sitting there staring at you, going, yes. And how do you feel about it?
Yeah, and you see that doesn't give you good feedback because you reckon then they don't care.
Yes.
Yeah. How do you feel about that? And they're looking at the watch.
I know. I've been to therapy actually where somebody has been constantly looking at the clock and going,
Yeah. Waste of space.
I swear to God, yeah. And just planting little notions in my head then about other people in my life that things would be wrong with, and you're like, why did you say that? That's a really weird thing to say, and it's not relevant to my life at all, you know?
Yeah. Well, there's parts of therapy that is actually called parts therapy.
Is this like ego states thing?
It can be. It's a bit like Gestalt in a way, and that kind of thing. If I explain to it, the way I explain it to people is that you know the feeling you have when you're about to wake up in the morning, but you're not asleep, but you know that you're not fully awake.
Oh, the loose edge thing.
Yeah, well, you know that the alarm clock's going to go off in a few minutes, and you're kind of going, okay, I'm just going to get 10 more minutes. I'm going to hit the snooze button when it goes off. And there's a little voice in you said, no, you've a very busy day ahead, and you have to get up and you have to get this ready and that ready. And another voice comes back and says, I showered last night before I went to bed. I'm not going to bother with the shower, so I can buy myself 10 minutes extra in bed. And then another voice comes back and says, no, you have to have a good breakfast because you're eating crap yesterday because you didn't have a solid breakfast, and then you were no, do you know what? I'm just going to do coffee.
Don't be so feckin' lazy and get out of the bed.
No, I'm going to have coffee at the bus station and you're arguing over back two diametrically opposite sides of your mind. At any given time, there's 2, 4, 6, 8, 6. There's multiple parts of you. It doesn't mean you're multiple personalities.
Or that you're schizophrenia
or any personality disorder. But there's different voices within your one psyche vying for your attention to be heard and kind of go, do this, and everyone says, no, do that. Well, and we can be torn in different directions, parts. And this is why this explains what we touched on in the previous video, habits. Why there's a part of you that kind of goes, it's Friday, I'm going for a Chinese and a few pints.
Yeah.
And there's another part.
It's like that comfort piece.
There's another part that kind of says, no, you need to be out bright and early Saturday morning. You promise somebody you'll be. And the other part says, no, I'll manage. I'll only have 3 pints, knowing that you'll have more. And you're arguing. So this is it's not so much a facade, because it's obvious within yourself when you when you see it, when you go look for it.
Yeah.
All of these different voices, and sometimes. I suppose this is where it gets into geese talking. Sometimes these voices aren't your own; they're your parents, your teachers.
Yeah. Who says that? I often ask my clients that. Well, whose voice is that now that's telling you you're no good, or that you're useless, or you're worthless?
Yeah,
and it's always like, oh, my teacher, or my mom, or my dad, or somebody like that. It's always somebody from the childhood that has made them feel this way about themselves, and then they carry that voice with them. And they become the critic. I did a lovely workshop with a guy, Dr. Michael Patterson, great guy actually. If any look him up, I did my training in EMDR with him. Fabulous guy altogether. But he specializes in ego states therapy. That what you were talking about there. And I just recently did a course with him actually, a continued professional development piece with him on ego states therapy, and it's so cool. Oh my God! Like to see all the different parts and to see him working with clients on their different parts. And getting the parts to come together and work together, because quite often what we have inside ourselves is turmoil, like what you were talking about. It's like we're fighting with ourselves, like about whether to get out of the bed or not. Like it's crazy, like when you think about it. But at the same time, like we have these voices and or these different parts to our person, and we just have to get them to align and collaborate a little bit better.
Well, and this is when you do bring somebody through this parts therapy, you realize having all the parts come out and talk about themselves, what they're doing, what they're trying to do for you, you realize they're actually all trying to do the same thing. They're trying to help me, to just coming at it from different perspectives.
Exactly. Yeah. And it's so cool then to get through that.
Then and then what you do is you get them to identify a common thing that the person wants to do, and then to begin to work together. How can they work together? Is the thing.
Okay, so $1 million question, because I know we're getting close to the end of our time, right? How useful is it then for therapists, in your opinion, to show their emotions in therapy?
I have heard of therapists who will break down and cry when their client cries, and I don't think that's helpful.
Okay.
That to me is what I remember a course I was on where the wonderful lady, I can't remember her name, terrible for names, but she was talking about the difference between empathy and sympathy.
Oh yeah, this is really good actually.
And she said it's like you're walking along the road and you come across this big hole 20 foot deep, and there's a person down the bottom of the hole and they're crying for help. Sympathy is where you jump down into the hole, you give them a big hug, and you're okay, you're fine, I'm here now, we're good, and then you kind of go, we're both stuck in a hole. Empathy is where you're walking along the road, you see somebody stuck in a 20-foot hole and they're crying for help, and you go, okay, give me a second, I'm going to get a rope ladder, I'm going to get the emergency services. You're connecting with them, but you're not putting yourself in as bad a state, so you're of use to them. So you have to realize too that you give judgment by your reaction. Like I've sat in front of people and heard horrendous things, but if I was to break down crying, or if I was to kind of go, oh, shocking, you lose your connection because it's judgment. You have to be passive. Now, I wouldn't say stony faced or poker face, but passive, and be there and be a strength for the client to kind of go, well, okay, I've said this to somebody. He hasn't rejected me because I've said this. He doesn't think I'm a bad person, or I'm evil, or whatever. And sometimes the first time they've said something out, it's been a talk around and around their head, and you're the first human being they've said it to. So you want to make sure you receive that.
Well, I think so just to open that out another little bit, and say, if somebody comes to you and they admit they've done something wrong, it's really important not to show shock or horror or something like that, for sure. But I've often, in my therapy room, this is where we differ a little bit, I show emotion. I have cried in front of clients. I remember many years ago, a client came to me and his daughter had died through medical neglect, which was proven in court later on. Jesus, his daughter was 4 when she died. And my oldest girl was 4 at the time I was in therapy. He came to me, and I remember tear escaped my eyes. I was going, fuck, get back in there. And I said to him, I'm so sorry, because his story impacted me. It really hit me. Jesus, that is awful, actually, what happened. And he said to me, I am so grateful to see you doing that. He said,
Yeah.
I know that you care.
Yeah.
Now that was,
But the difference there was,
the way we were trained.
no, but you weren't a shriveling mess.
no.
You were,
Yeah.
it connected with you because you could
Yeah.
relate. You had a daughter at the same age.
Yeah.
So in that case, that's a different thing.
So yeah, it is a different thing to like,
Because
what
you
we're
don't want
talking
the
about. You don't want
client-
to break down.
No,
the
you don't want the
system
client coming over, putting their arm around the therapist and saying, "Here,
yeah, that's not what we're here for. Yeah, we're here to actually help people. And I remember my supervisor, when I was qualifying as well, I remember I went to supervision for a year before I sat in front of a client. And there's a lot of people out there who think that's stark crazy, right? But I actually wasn't ready
yeah,
because I was such an emotional person, and I still am very emotionally charged. I actually just wasn't ready to actually work with clients because I couldn't contain myself. I was in like the open door project I was working in was like a low threshold. So people were coming in, the men were coming in and they were already using and stuff. Like they were still drinking and taking drugs and stuff like that. And I was just thinking, oh my God, these young men, their lives are destroyed and wasted. I think I was like 26 or 27 at this stage.
yeah.
And they were only in their early 20s, like, and I was thinking, Jesus, this is terrible. Like, I was bringing it home with me. I was going, oh my God, I can't cope with this at all. And so I needed a bit more time, I think.
You do.
And he said to me,
yeah.
my supervisor, that's the point. Sorry. He said to me, if you don't get in control of that, then you're not going to be able to help anybody.
Of course, yeah.
He said, you cannot get emotionally involved in somebody's problem. You need to be able to think about how you're going to help them.
Yeah.
Or what's going to help them. So it's like what you were saying about the whole, it's the exact same thing.
yeah. And you see, I became a therapist at an older age. I was a different person I was nearly 40.
Yeah.
So I had that life maturity and I was very used to talking to people.
Yeah.
So I suppose in summary, it's okay to have these different facets to your personality, whether you call it a poker face or your front door face, your face in work or whatever. It's to understand why you have these. They're coping strategies.
Oh, they are indeed, yeah.
And they're valid.
Yeah.
And they'll work, but sometimes you might lose yourself.
Yeah.
In all this and not be quite sure who you are.
Yeah. And I think that's, when therapy is really helpful because it helps you figure out who you are maybe or who you want to be, and I think it's the goal, isn't it? Like I'm always working on who I want to be next, and I suppose us doing
you're never finished.
You're never done.
Never finished.
Never done.
We actually are finished. We
have to finish our podcast now. Actually, we're going over the time.
Okay. Like us, subscribe to us, comment down below.
Yeah. Thanks a million, guys, for listening, and we'll see you again next week. Bye.
Bye.